You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, y'all know what time it is.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Harper.
Illegally selling water without a permit
on my property.
Whoa! Hey!
Give us your right.
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
All right, folks. Monday was, of course, Memorial Day, and in Ohio, event organizers were not happy at all that a white retired lieutenant colonel dared to actually give the history of Memorial Day. Y'all, did this actually happen?
Memorial Day was first commemorated by an organized group of black freed slaves less than a month after the Confederacy surrendered. Recent years, the origins of how and where Decoration Day began has sparked lively debate amongst historians. However, Yale historian David Blight, asserting the holiday is rooted in a moving ceremony, was conducted by freed slaves on May 1st, 1865, at the tattered remains of a Confederate prisoner of war camp. It was a Charleston, Washington racecourse and jockey club, today known as Hampton Park. The ceremony is believed to have included a parade of as many as 10,000 people, including 3,000 African-American school children singing the Union marching song, John Brown's Body. They were carrying armfuls of flowers and went to decorate the graves. Interesting that there would be a tie back to Hudson with that song from John Brown.
Most importantly, whether Charleston's Decoration Day was the first is attended by Charleston's black community. Hey Jay, Mike. We'll continue on. This is why you moved in closer so you can hear this.
All right, y'all. So there, he decided to continue to speak, and it was after, we don't have it here, he continued to give the history, okay? And after he gave the history and then went back to the part of his speech that was not part of the black folks in the history, they turned the microphone back on. Okay, so the president of the Hudson American Legion Auxiliary, Cindy Sushan, she admitted that, this is her quote to the Washington Post, to the Akron Beacon Journal. We asked him to modify his speech, and he chose not to do that. Well, he was under the impression that, again, y'all asked me to speak, I'm gonna sit here and give my speech.
Speak your speech.
and so. Now, it was only two people who could have made that decision. And Kempter did not want to call out exactly who made the decision. One of the folks, it's right here. On Wednesday, Sushan confirmed, this is the Washington Post. On Wednesday, Sushan confirmed that, let me find it right here. Confirmed to the Akron Beacon Journal, either she or Jim Garrison, the adjutant of the American Legion, Lee Bishop, Post 464, had turned the audio down because the theme of the day was honoring Hudson veterans. She declined to confirm who specifically had turned down the volume. Of course, that fool wouldn't even comment, said he had nothing to add. The Ohio American Legion is investigating the incident. Reese, Lord, these white folks will even check a white man. A white retired lieutenant colonel, and it wasn't even like it was his whole speech. He was just saying, this is the history.
You know what? I'm tickled pink by how much that triggered them, because that was a very mild speech. I mean, it wasn't like he got up there and said, Black Lives Matter. I mean, good Lord. But, you know, it's so funny because, you know, okay, let me say this. The melanemic, to borrow from Jane Elliott, are so full of shit, because all this weekend they was having a whole cow about Vice President Kamala Harris's tweet and honor the troops and, you know, patriotism, X, Y, and Z, and you need to recognize the history, and there's all this, you know, history behind this long weekend. And here you have an actual decorated veteran who is actually explaining, a white man who is explaining the history, and they can't even handle it. And so it's just it's not funny, but it is funny, because even just the mildest reminder of the just sordid history of our country, and actually reminded the melanemic who lost the war, which is the Confederacy, is enough to send them over the edge. But, you know, I applaud Lieutenant Colonel for carrying forward with his speech and for not letting them silence him. And, you know, they were able to turn him down, but they weren't able to silence him, because you can't silence the truth. If you guys don't want to admit it, that's fine, but it's still out there.
Amisha, it's laughable with these idiots. And I love it how they say, well, the speech was supposed to be about Hudson veterans. The man remarked about John Brown, whose family settled in Hudson, Ohio.
Roland, I think they have to consistently be reminded Black history is American history. American history is Black history. And trying to erase Black history and Black contributions to things that have been nationalized. Memorial Day is a very important holiday that has been celebrated across this country for decades now, for generations. And to eradicate the fact that Black people actually created it, the reason why it's celebrated is because of Black people. They don't want to hear it from Black speakers. They clearly don't want to hear it from white speakers either. This goes beyond just a notion of critical race theory and teaching our history in classrooms and making the American public more in tune with the Black contributions, but also the reasons why there is so much Black pain that still exists across this country, because white people just don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it from any speaker. And I think that it's extremely disrespectful, to Reese's point, to all of the people who tweeted all this past weekend and kept hooting and hollering over and over again about how they felt that Vice President Kamala Harris was disrespecting Memorial Day and disrespecting veterans because she had said, have a good long weekend. At the end of the day, most Americans had a good long weekend. They hung out with their friends, family, traveled, went to picnics. It was what it was. On that same token, you have a decorated veteran who is speaking and honoring the contributions of veterans, honoring the holiday, mentioning the history of said holiday, which, yes, includes a strong contribution from Black people who created said holiday. All of a sudden, his mic gets cut off right when he was about to get really deep into it. And by really deep, I mean probably 3 or 4 more sentences. They just didn't want to hear it at all.
Greg, we started this show talking about these white Democrats who don't support H.R. 40. We already know the white Republicans don't support it. Mm-hmm. Here was a Memorial Day event. Memorial Day. All the man was saying was who started Memorial Day. And these white folks couldn't even handle that.
No, of course not. But as you said, and as Reese has said, and as Amisha said, you know, this is where we are, but this is where we always been, Roland. This is just another little battlefront in the cold Civil War. I love and appreciate them for this, because they're dropping all pretenses. With your indulgence, I'm going to channel my inner John Brown, who, as you said, from 5 years old to about 17, lived in Hudson, Ohio with his father, Owen, and moved the family there from Connecticut. I'm going to channel my inner John Brown. When John Brown and those 19 guys went into Harper's Ferry, Virginia in October 1859 with 5 Black men as well, including Dangerfield Newby, who came out of enslavement. So I'm going to liberate my wife. They were trying to set off what became the Civil War, and they probably did help do that. Lieutenant Colonel Bernard Kempter understands that, and the open enemies of our common humanity that cut his mic, I respect you all because you're fighting for something. You believe it. The thing about denial, however, is it doesn't stop reality. So you can get your 43 states and try to stop us from voting. That's fine. You can have your affirmative action hires in places like Duke, where Mike Krzyzewski hands off his job to another unqualified white man, and up in Boston, where Danny Ainge retires and another white man gets promotion, and even Stephen A. Smith walks off the set in disgust. Y'all can keep it up, but your little country is just about over. Now, I'll say this in the context of what happened on Monday. When you see Lieutenant Army Colonel Bernard Kempter say that, as you said, it wasn't as Michelle said. And Michelle, you just said it. It wasn't going to be but a couple more sentences, but you just came back from Tulsa, brother. And the brother who did the children's book, who did the illustration on the children's book on Tulsa, he also did the illustrations on this little book. It's a good book for your children called, guess what, A Day for Remembering. There's Floyd Cooper. This is the history of that Memorial Day he was talking about. Roland, let's just pause here. Those Klan adjacent white boys between Akron and Cleveland and that little place called Hudson, Ohio, which has racial problems at Hudson High School the past couple years, they're fighting for something that is a betrayal. Forget a betrayal of America. It's a betrayal of our common humanity. Because what Kempter was telling them about in May 1865, those black soldiers in Charleston, South Carolina, went into what was a Confederate prison camp, dug up the bodies, Roland, dug up the bodies of the soldiers who had died in the Civil War, irrespective of their race, black and white soldiers. But these black people dug up the bodies, gave each of them a decent burial, and then 10,000 black people. He mentioned David Blight, but with all due respect to Professor Blight, a black man and black women have written about this for years. My man, Willard, oh man, I can't think of his name, Wilfred Jenkins at Temple University wrote about this in his book on Charleston. 10,000 black people showed up that May the 1st and decorated those freshly dug graves with flowers, including 3,000 school children, black school children who did it. Black school children before the end of the Civil War? Yeah, because they started schools immediately. And I love this picture. There's the arch those black men put together, martyrs of the race course, and they marched in there, and those children laid those flowers at the grave, singing, John Brown's body lays a molding in the grave. But his truth is marching on. Turn off the mic, because we about to turn off the lights on your little settler project. And you can put your fingers in your ears if you want to. You're just going to get run over. That don't mean the water ain't going to drown you anyway.
I just love how these folk cannot handle any level of truth. You know, that was one of the cable news executives told a friend of mine that when he asked, why don't y'all have Roland Martin on more? And the person says, well, you know, I like Roland, but he's like a strong cup of black coffee.
Thank you.
And I said, you damn right. I'm telling y'all, folks, this is why all you black folks, when y'all going on these mainstream networks, do what I've always done, and Greg is showing y'all. Read some of them damn books. Infuse actual history into your analysis when you're on. Use your television hits as an opportunity to educate the masses on black people. Use the opportunity to weave in American history. Don't just talk about present day, because the reality is, as Dr. Maya Angelou told me, you are a teacher, and use it wisely. That's why I don't play around with this. That's why you don't see me sitting here getting involved in gossip and mess. That's why we don't talk about on this show who got married, who got divorced, who having kids. Because if y'all want to hear that stuff, y'all can go to somebody else's show. This is why we deal with real stuff. And so to that retired lieutenant colonel, way to give him hell and way to keep giving your speech. And I told Jackie, our booker, to track him down. I would love for him to come on and read that speech again, so we have a clear audio portion of what he had to say. That way we can share it. And hell, more folks. And see, this is how stupid they are, you dumbasses there in Ohio. Because y'all so dumb. More people have actually heard what he had to say than the number of people who were actually at the event. That's why y'all keep playing yourselves. I keep telling y'all folk while we had this segment, Crazy Ass White People, because all y'all are doing is making our jobs easier. So I hope the American Legion of Ohio fire Cindy and that other fool, and y'all go ahead and replace them with some black veterans. Please do that.
Folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
The eyes of the country are on Tulsa this morning as we mark 100 years since the massacre that reshaped the city. Joining me now, you know who it is, Roland Martin, host of Roland Martin Unfiltered, and congratulations, he's Fisk University's inaugural Revis L. Mitchell Distinguished Scholar in Residence. He's about to bring the funk. Roro, I'm so happy you're
Glad to be here.
You're looking very dapper and festive.
Thank God I brought the long coat. It's chilly this morning,
chilly.
so this was a right
expected.
selection. I can be a little warm.
You made a better choice than I did, my friend. I'm curious your take on all this because, as you know, the commission has raised $30 million to construct this commemoration and building to acknowledge what happened 100 years ago, but none of that money is actually going to the descendants or survivors. So there is some concern about monetizing tragedy. What are your thoughts?
This is black pain now been treated like black porn. Cities like Tulsa, that's what they want to do. They went to Montgomery, Alabama. They went to Alabama and studied how Alabama has monetized the civil rights movement. And that's what you're actually seeing, and that is a problem. And so what we should be saying as African Americans, and no, we're going to stand with these residents in their demands by saying, no, you are not going to sit here and build a museum and do these things. And they're already including this now in the tourism of Tulsa. So they want to now attract folks. And so if they were smart, they would align with the community and say we can turn this into an annual event, an annual celebration that could attract 50 to 100,000 African Americans to Tulsa on an annual basis. And guess who benefits? Hotels, restaurants, transportation companies, rental car companies. But if you do it with the community, then it makes sense. Right. But they don't want to do that. And so this is the moment where black folks say, you're no longer going to pimp us. We're going to shut you down. And so that's why I have no problem with the community, the folks who pulled out on Monday, because this city cannot continue to destroy black folks in Greenwood, but then want to make money off of black people in Greenwood 100 years later and not share any of the money with black people.
Right. You know, something that's interesting, your family's from Texas. I find it interesting how a lot of people, even the descendants, some of them did not know about this tragedy that took place 100 years ago. I remember asking my grandmother questions about her early life, and it was always, you know, why you want to talk about that? Or, you know, let's just move on. We normalize trauma. We bury it in our communities because we don't want to address it again. Do you think we've gotten past that and are now, you know, wresting away our narrative, like telling our own stories to our children?
Well, the only reason we're now being able to do that is because, one, you have the evolution of black-owned media. That's one. Then you now have, because you mentioned Colonel Commission reporter, you now have black folks who are in front of the camera who are now producers, who are now presidents of networks. So you no longer have white Americans controlling the narrative. The nation's first black newspaper, Freedom's Journal, wrote on March 16, 1827, "We wish to plead our own cause, too long have others spoken for us." Well, now Kim Godwin at ABC, Rashida Jones at NBC. Now you're seeing African Americans who will host you and Joy and Don and Robert and Al, or whatever. We right,
Yeah.
but we now get to tell the story.
Right.
The Kerner Commission report cited media saying they were part of the problem. The first wave of black people in television came into the business after the Kerner Commission report. So Tulsa, the newspaper here, did not report on this until the 1970s. So that's 50 years. When did the first wave of black journalists come into newsrooms? In the 1970s. And so America has always denied us and our value. And somebody called me the other day to interview for a story on Rashida Jones, the president of MSNBC.
Yeah.
I said, Rashida and Kim get to bring their blackness to the meeting. The guy was like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, all these years, whiteness was brought into the meeting. Their stories, their narratives. I said, and that's the difference. We now get to speak, and that matters.
Yeah, it matters indeed. I can speak firsthand and testify to that, my brother. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you so much, Roland, for making. I know you're busy here this morning, so thank you for making time for us. You can catch Roland Martin on his show, Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. Y'all know what time it is.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, Harper.
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey!
Give it your right.
You don't live here.
I'm uncomfortable.
In Tennessee, the removal of the graves of Confederate General Nathan Bedford Forrest, his wife, and the statue honoring the former KKK leader is causing white folks to be beside themselves. Watch this.
Stand behind me. This is Dixieland. And I just told y'all that my ancestors picked cotton. I'm not making this up. I have slave records. My ancestors picked cotton. While his ancestors beat and raped my ancestors. But guess what? Dixie is dead. And it was killed by the descendants of black people. The descendants of black people. Van Turner and Tammy Sawyer and others, we took your hero down. And just like you, he's gone.
Oh, I wish
So
I was.
we are not post-racial America. We are not post-racial Memphis. This hatred and this racism is large and loud. I bet you do wish you were in the land of cotton.
The remains and the statue will be relocated to the National Confederate Museum at Elm Spring in Columbia, Tennessee. Now, the construction crew, contracted by Sons of Confederate Veterans, put several Confederate flags on the site's fence. So this is so we can see this video right here. They went out of their way to pile bricks on top of the Black Lives Matter painting nearby and profusely harassed Shelby County Commissioner Tammy Sawyer as she spoke with the media. She joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Commissioner, glad to have you here. So it had to be, I mean, you're watching this, and it shows you how these white folks love that racist flag.
Yeah, they love it. I mean, they had it waving, and about 5 flags out there and a large flag. They draw a lot of inspiration for their hatred from it.
So, I mean, were you surprised that when you held the news conference, this guy would constantly interrupt you, singing Dixie and mocking you at every turn?
The thing that was most shocking, because we've encountered him in the past, but what was most shocking was that he had no qualms about threatening my life, about, calling me names, about singing Dixie with every major outlet in the city and some from the state watching him. It's the audacity that they showed on January 6th. He showed right there. They don't care that their racism is out in the open. It's quite dangerous.
Robert Portillo, this is the kind of nonsense, again, that we see. And these are the folks that, frankly, Republicans have been catering to for a very long time.
Well, I think also we have to look at the dichotomy in what Republicans are arguing right now. At the same time that they're arguing we can't teach critical race theory in schools, which is not a thing. At the same time, they're arguing that we can't change curriculums to be more inclusive of what happened to Native peoples, what happened to African Americans. They want to uphold these monuments in order to make sure that we don't forget the history that they want to tell us of white domination of the South. And I think what we saw there is another case of white fragility, a white man who wants to hang on to that mythos, that idea that they call it the lost cause myth, that the white South was fighting for the glorious antebellum past that we saw in Gone with the Wind, and that's completely disconnected from reality. So the taking down of these monuments and the deveneration of many of these places is important for America to heal. And also, let's not proceed with this concept that these monuments were somehow erected hundreds of years ago. Most of them were erected in the 1950s and 60s by the sons and daughters of the Confederate veterans in order to reestablish white supremacy during the civil rights movement. So this is why, Roland, you know I have a gun on me at all times. This is exactly why, because in case people like those wild Confederates get violent, you have to make sure that you are exercising your Second Amendment rights, because after what we saw on January 6th, you can't put anything past them.
Commissioner?
I absolutely agree. I mean, it was an unsafe situation the entire time. And as I said, you know, he told me if I was a man, he'd beat me several times, and we can't trust it. Tennessee has just signed concealed carry, permitless concealed carry, and, you know, so who knows what he had on him. And to Mr. Patello's point, CRT was just banned in Tennessee as well. So they're going to breed generations of white men and women who carry this ignorance forth and believe they're fighting this lost cause instead of just breeding hatred and violence.
Monique?
No, I agree. I just applaud the commissioner for the way that she maintained her composure throughout, which is what we're expected to do at all times. But this is just another manifestation of the racist nature of this country that some are just unwilling to see. It's not that they can't see it, it's that they refuse to.
Mm-hmm. And look, Commissioner, sorry, I've been telling people, look, and I'm working on a book right now. This is white fear. They cannot handle no longer being the ones who decide everything.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what's driving this. Scott?
The part I've never, and Commissioner, I applaud your leadership and hanging in there and doing your press conference and being the strong leader that you are, who happens to just be black, because excellence is yours. But what I've never understood, and sometimes Roland and I talk about this, we got to be the only country where you had a civil war, you lost, the South lost, right? And we still celebrate their loss, or a group of people in America still celebrate the loss and have Confederate flags and statutes and yada, yada, yada. Hell, in Germany, it's illegal to own Nazi material or that wreck Nazi statutes and what have you, or even paraphernalia. And so I really think intellectually we got this wrong. At least Southerners have this wrong. And I would hope that at some point when we become enlightened in 2043, or when we become the majority, we would go even further as a country to bar those symbols of a loss of a civil war 200 plus years ago. So.
Well, hell, Commissioner, we know how they feel about their guns. Lord, don't just take their little flag.
Right. That's my point, though. I mean, they had run around with some Confederate flags talking about a civil war that they lost. They lost. And we still let them do it because of the First Amendment. It's just bullshit. Complete bullshit.
That's your word of the night.
Yeah, precisely. Commissioner, Commissioner, go ahead.
Well, it's embedded in everything that came out of the Civil War, though, and this is why they're so able to still have these gatherings, wave these flags. It's why people who are not Confederates protect them and allow them to do all this, because Abraham Lincoln wasn't pro-black. He wanted us to go back to Africa. He wanted to reunite the North and the South and white people. Yeah. And so that's trickled down. That's embedded in everything, every law that's been made, since emancipation. It's why Reconstruction was so short. And it's why in 2021 today, a man can stand behind me waving a flag and cussing me out, even though I'm an elected official, and still not be arrested today for threatening my life. Because they're a protected class in this country. We've got to do a whole lot more than dismantling to change that.
Yep. Yeah, thank you.
Well, first of all, yeah. Robert, go ahead.
I was going to say, get yourself an AR pistol. So you want it either 300 blackout subsonic or 7.62 by 39. Fits right under your jacket, 7.5-inch barrel. Get either a 10 or a 30-round magazine. Easy to handle, 2 hands, and it still counts as a large caliber pistol under ATF laws. Be in great condition, and then you can get them at a good, 100, 150 yards. You're still good, well within range. And you can run it suppressed if you get a tax stamp.
And she'd get arrested, and he wouldn't.
Exactly.
So, Commissioner, your thoughts on Robert's 30-second gun lesson?
I am armed. I do not carry my gun outside of the house, though, because as my friend just noted, they would take me to jail with the quickness. I'm the enemy in this state.
I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6.
Hey. I like talking to you from the outside.
Well, I did just get back from Tulsa, where Councilwoman Vanessa, she's always packing, had her gun on her hip during the whole workshop, but to your point, you got these Republicans in Texas and Tennessee now saying, "Hey, forget a permit, forget even going to classes. Y'all just care for the hell of it."
Yeah.
Wild, Wild West, and you've got these racists out there protesting, but guess what? They little hurt feelings because they got to dig them racist bones up and put them somewhere else. Commissioner, sorry, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real as Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Folks, earlier today, across from the Greenwood Cultural Center, they had the unveiling of that Tulsa mural. We had the opportunity to talk with the artist, a white man from Maryland, who talked about how he was moved by it and then explained to us, walking us through exactly what his vision was to illustrate what took place 100 years ago in the community of Greenwood, where 36 blocks were torched by racists here in Tulsa. You said when, after Tiffany introduced you, that when you got the call to do this, you had no idea about this issue?
I had no idea. It was never taught to me. It was a blank. I had to look it up.
You were born and raised where?
I was born in 1959, raised in Florida, military family, public schools, Florida State University. Never once, heard anything about it.
And how were you selected? Who chose you? How did that happen?
I think Randy Vaughn, the gentleman right there, knew my work, saw the Harriet Tubman mural.
Harriet Tubman mural where?
Harriet Tubman mural in Cambridge, Maryland, on the side of the Harriet Tubman Museum.
Got it.
And Visitor Center, or Educational Center. And again, it was it was a powerful, powerful image of a powerful, powerful woman. That when you tap into the stories that you're telling, if I didn't get emotional, if I can't get emotional, not doing my job. A, but B, as a human being, so out of the hair, as a human being, you have to experience it in order to feel the pain of the person and the people that you're conveying. But even as just human beings walking the planet, to understand why the black perspective has an issue with any of a number of things, and when you start to tell the story, you start to realize, the complete mistreatment and abuse of a race simply because of the color of their skin. It gets really heavy, and I don't say. I mean, I say that, but I mean, I feel it when I paint. Mm-hmm. And when Randy called me about doing it, and I think it was because of the Harriet Tubman mural, because for that one, it was the same thing. I don't take lightly that I'm a white man painting a black story, but I'm also a human being painting a human story, and that we should be able to tell each other's story, and the disadvantage to the black artist is that the white population is not hiring black artists to tell the white story, and I can attest to how much empathy and how much you learn about yourself and the people you're painting about by being asked to paint that story. So, and I think I try to convey that to my work, and I think that's probably why, in answer to your question, they asked me to paint it.
Take us through your process to visualize this. What research did you do?
Right.
How often did you travel here? Did you talk to people?
Right.
Just take us through that process.
I will. I had a lot of conversations with Randy and Dr. Crutcher about what it is they were trying to convey, what they wanted, me to express through the painting. The amount of research, listening to podcasts, reading historical articles, just reading everything I could about what happened that day. I didn't have the opportunity to travel out here. I mean, this is my first time in Tulsa, but I think...
This is your first time here?
In Tulsa,
okay.
Yeah. And so I think, that's the beauty, obviously, of the internet now, is that you can pretty much get a picture of what it is and what happened through all the documentation. But what you don't get is what you saw today, was that human level, that emotional level, and sometimes it just doesn't work that you can travel, either you're working on other projects and getting out to meet, the people face to face. It's not feasible. It may not be in a budget. At the same time, the beauty of the internet, again, Zoom, I can have a conversation with you over the internet, and at least I have contact with you, which I did with them. So, my first time here. And
so how did you settle on this? And so because you had the different.
Well,
so we're gonna get the microphone here.
For
Anthony
sure.
should just stand on that side right there.
Okay.
So just explain the different elements of this mural.
Well, when I was having the conversation with Dr. Crutcher, she was telling stories, telling me about, and I had also read the stories, but the first-hand account, of running down the street with her mother, being chased by white men, and you just had to read about the white community deputizing 500 people and being told to make it happen. These are and the deputies allowing it to happen. I mean, I would say that, the police force at that time allowing that community, the white community, to burn down a town and kill. Those are truths that you can't gloss over. I mean, that's the truth that gets swept under the carpet. That's what has to be. When you look at that in this painting, you want to know, who is that person? Why is there a white guy and they're holding a gun? Why are they loading bodies onto a flatbed truck? And when you start to do your research, you start to realize that's what happened. They loaded dead bodies onto trucks and took them to mass graves. That the white community made sure that they could, that they went into every house, and in every business and destroy it. The whole goal was to destroy it and get rid of all evidence, and then to pillage what was in every one of those houses. That has to be addressed. You have to feel, as a white person, you have to look at that and be a little bit shocked that, wow, yeah, I don't feel that, but someone did feel that. And they did this, and that person, and the consequences of that action was what's right there in the center, which is a loss of a husband, a father, of a future.
You got the child clutching.
The child, yeah. Well, my dad died when I was 7 years old in Vietnam, so I never saw him. He never came back. He's MIA. And I remember my mom screaming, when they came over, and I remember what it feels like, what it felt like as a child to to have your dad no longer there. The difference was I still had a community, I still had a house, I still had a family surrounding me, a military family. This child doesn't. To be that boy at that age and have this happen, you can't comprehend at that age what happened, except you were afraid. But when he turns 15 or when he turns 17 or when he's 20 years old, he'll start to feel all the pain that he's feeling at that moment. And as a viewer, I think it's important of public art that tells a story like this. You have to be able to put yourself as a viewer into that boy's mind, into that woman's heart and mind, and to feel the devastation of death, and you've got to be able to look at the white community, your community, and say, they did this,
And you also have that plane.
The airplane did.
As well, and what people don't realize is, they covered this in the 60 Minutes piece as well,
right,
that this was the first time planes had been used to terrorize American citizens.
Yes.
Not 9/11.
Yes.
What happened here in Tulsa.
Absolutely. This massacre.
And is the orange? Does this happen?
Well, see, the orange it represents fire, but obviously a lot of this fire would already be gone.
Right.
So I had to come up with a style that wasn't fire, but it felt like fire.
But didn't it also start after sundown? So you sort of have sun setting. So it gives both.
Which is why you get that kind of long shadow. This is either early morning or late in the evening. But so you just as a technique, you want your eye to go right to the people. The other story you will eventually learn as you look at it. But when you look at the immediate impact of this mural, I wanted it right in the center. I wanted all the lines converging into her, because that's the legacy. That's what happened. What happens after this moment on this porch? Who knows? Was she able to rebuild? Was that boy able to go on and live a prosperous life? I don't know, but we as a viewer have to confront that and say, this can't happen. We can't. This kind of hatred, and we know it's still out there. We're not fooling anybody that that there are still people with that kind of hatred in their hearts, and it's. I think the more you tell the story, the more people, like I do, after telling the story, I despise that hatred now. Before you understood it was there, but until you really start to tell a story and feel the empathy of those that are affected by that, you don't, that's when it has an impact. And that's how, as an artist, I'm changed by telling these stories. And it's, I take incredible pride in telling the story, telling the Black heritage story, telling the Black story. I'm not Black, but as a human being, we all are, and if I can't get into that story, then how can we ever, move on?
On the side over
man.
Here,
Sure.
you have a woman, looks like her daughter, that's
right.
trying to escape.
Exactly.
And then you have these white folks pointing them out.
Chasing them down, get them. Absolutely, because that's what happened. There's no denying that happened all day long. It's documented, rounded up, taken to wherever at the time they took them. Or run completely out of town, and if you resisted, shot. So the word massacre is powerful, but the story of a massacre is even greater than the power the word gives, because you suddenly realize that this happened to human beings, and it only happened because the color of their skin. The hatred and the jealousy that it took to do that, I can't comprehend. As a human being now, it's impossible. But I know it happened, and you've got to capture that. And hopefully I did. That was my goal.
All right. Michael, we certainly appreciate it.
All right, absolutely.
Thanks a bunch for walking us through this.
All right, well, I appreciate it too. And it's my honor, actually.
All right, thanks a bunch.
All right,
I appreciate
you got it.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Mark Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win.
This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have, you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. And the NFL today said it would stop the use of race norming. That's assuming black players have a lower cognitive functioning when it comes to the $1 billion settlement of brain injury claims and review past scores for any potential racial bias. Joining us now is the University of Maryland professor, my man Kevin Blackistone. He's the professor of the practice at the Philip Merrill College of Journalism. I want to start first with the NFL story, Kevin, because a lot of folks were like, what the hell? Race norming? Are you serious? The NFL initially tried to defend it, but it was a whole lot of negative press. They had to back off of that.
Yeah, not only that, this story really started about 7 or 8 months ago. That's when I first caught wind of it. And quite frankly, I didn't really understand all of it until recently. And I wasn't expecting this announcement today, but this is some next level racist stuff here. And basically it assumes that the black male football player is not as intelligent as his white peer. And that when it comes to the concussion lawsuit, they therefore are it is not as easy for them to get compensated for their brain injury as for their white peer who suffers a brain injury. But you know what? Even more than that, Roland, when you really read about what race norming is, it's not only football players who get impacted by this. It's black people in general in every walk of medical life. So race norming is a big part of the medical industry, which is why it came up in this concussion lawsuit. And so if you are black in this country and you are suffering from diabetes and it has wrecked your liver, your kidney, and you are in need of a transplant, this impacts you negatively because you are looked at further down the rung than a white person who is suffering the same ailment. So we can focus on the NFL today and what it says about the NFL and the fact that Roger Goodell and everybody who runs the NFL was very disingenuous when they were talking about Black Lives Matter and supporting black athletes, while, as you pointed out, behind the scenes they were fighting this particular issue, which affected the life, the well-being of former players. This impacts us all. And that's what's really, really frightening about it. And then I'll point people, I put it on my Twitter account, @Prof Blackistone, but Lucia Trimbar, who's a professor at New York University, she's written about this rather extensively. And I urge people to go read her writings about it.
And look, it was the players being quite vocal about this and going to the media that really made this blow up.
Yeah, absolutely. Had they stayed silent, we may not have heard about that. Had they not had the audacity to file a lawsuit against the NFL on this, we may never have. It may never have come to light. Which is why voice is so important. It doesn't matter if you're an athlete. It doesn't matter if you are someone who cleans the clubhouse or the locker room that the athletes perform out of. It's important for us to have voice on these critical issues.
Folks, back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, the black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
All right, folks, Roland Martin here. We, of course, have been covering this Justice for Greenwood Town Hall, and you've been hearing the stories. Come right on in. If you were watching the live stream when they announced that a former state official, Don Ross, was in the room, and so I had to let him know he was not coming to the town hall. He was actually coming here to chat with me, and that's why he's here. And he joins us right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Doc, how you doing?
I'm fine. My back hurts, but I'm old.
How old are you?
You know what I mean when you get there. I'm 80.
You're 80 years old.
I'm old.
I've talked to your son. Mm-hmm. I've talked to your daughter, and they said, growing up, this was the thing that you were focused on, getting justice for Greenwood.
Well, I don't know what justice is anymore. There were a lot of things we didn't have, and we tried to get them. Justice, I don't know if we ever got that. Still ain't got it.
Right.
So now. So, this was my focal point on Greenwood was to create this facility.
Right.
And that's what I'm proud of her.
To take us back, how difficult was it to get this commission even approved? To take us through that. You actually.
That's an interesting question because it was a trick.
It was a trick?
Yeah, it was a trick. See, in the legislature, they don't give you half of what you want, but they'll let you study it. All I wanted was a study, because I could open the door from there.
Right.
So when I presented that I demanded this, and this, they said, "No, we'll give you a study, though." And so it all came out of the study. But that was part of my plan. I've been there 20 years. I know what they do.
Right. It's like game recognized game.
Yeah.
Now, when you were in the legislature, how many other African Americans were there?
5.
There's a total of 5 of y'all.
Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah.
Had to be a little lonely.
Huh?
Had to be a little lonely.
Oh yeah. They isolated us. They treated us like stepchildren. Sometimes they make you not like white people. The way they treat you. They just don't. They never treat us right.
What do you make of? So first of all, I've heard people who not here don't know. Has the state of Oklahoma or the city of Tulsa ever actually formally apologized for what happened in Greenwood?
That's the interesting thing. During the anniversary, I forget which one, we had all these politicians on stage. The governor was there, the U.S. Senator was there, Bourne, and all of them, and they're all talking about what a great job I was doing. I said, well, I haven't done anything because I hadn't been able to provoke you into an apology for what you haven't done. So it took a number of years for them to apologize for what they did to my community.
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't forgiven them. I'm still a little bit bitter. I hope it didn't detect it.
You say you're still bitter. Why?
Yeah. Well, there's so much that could have been done that should have been done. But white people and some of the black lackeys hid behind that. And we never did get done what we could have gotten done here. You know, there's still some work that should have gone on in this building that will never be done now.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I'm a little bit bitter.
How do you feel about, City of Tulsa builds this $30 million museum, Greenwood Rising? They are trying to create this tourist thing around Greenwood. And, you got the lawyers and fighting for the survivors and the descendants. And truth be told, I mean, I've covered stories all over America. $50 million is not a lot of money to create a victims' compensation fund. Federal government created a multi-billion-dollar 9/11 fund.
Uh-huh.
That's not a lot for an oil-rich state.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting you say that because one thing you have recognized is we are a wealthy state. We are wealthy. We got money.
Right.
And you can't squeeze a dime out of them white folks. You can't get none of it. And anybody say we're getting it in line. The Chamber of Commerce, all of them lie. They're not right. And this building's a fluke, They needed me, and I needed them. So that's the only reason it's here. If they hadn't needed my vote, it never would have been built.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying not to be bitter because you're such a nice person. But every time I get talking about some of that old shit, I get bitter, man.
I understand.
Yeah. So I know it went down. And they'll pat me on the back and all that shit. Hell, when I need them, I couldn't even find them. So, let me tell you. When I put out the call for reparations, not one sorority, not one fraternity, not one church or any group stood with me. I stood by myself. Mm-hmm. And as soon as it looked like I was going to get some attention, everybody was for it. They come out of the woodworks, man. So I'm glad I retired, but I'm still a little bit bitter at my community.
Right.
So we could, we had them. We could have got a hell of a lot more if we could just band it together. But that just ain't, I know it's not just Tulsa, that's everywhere.
Right.
That's just us.
Well, because there are folk, there's a lot of folk who's scared. Look, people come up to me and they're like, man, Roland, did you really say that? I mean, aren't you scared? I said, look, the white folks ain't giving me nothing now. I said, why am I going to be quiet in the hopes that I'm not going to get something tomorrow?
Yeah.
I said, hell, I might as well say something.
Yeah.
Then I actually might get something. I mean, what's the Billy Preston song? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
Yeah. Well, you know how I feel, don't you?
I understand.
Yeah. In many ways, I'm proud of my community, but more ways than not, we've been disappointed ourselves because so much we could have done, man. Mm-hmm. So much. But all that jealousy, city councilmen fighting the state reps, and they're fighting the state senators, egos are all around. So finally, I just quit.
Mm-hmm. Now, when did you retire?
In 19, I've been in, why'd you ask me that? In 19, I've been in it 21 years.
Okay.
21 years I was in it. So you figured it out. My math ain't that good.
So you wrote a book, Pillage of Hope. This is the book right here. Because you wanted your story on paper.
Not so much my story, but a story of how things evolve.
Right.
I think I'm not in that much, but how it evolved, the ride and all that stuff evolved is in there, and that's what I was writing for, really.
What I was reading a tweet from Jelani Cobb earlier, and he's been going around Tulsa, and he said he's shocked the number of white folks today who actually believe the massacre never happened.
Oh, I believe that. I believe that. I believe you can go 30 feet outside that front door and find something. You know, this is a racist town. I know we say that about Chicago, say that about everywhere, but I think if we compare records, we got it.
You said you compare notes.
Yeah. You ain't never had no ride that killed, they say 300, could have been many 1,000 people.
Right.
Threw them off in the river and Samoan pits and all. No. It's a tough town.
I've run into a lot of young brothers. We've been here since Thursday, and I've run into a lot of young. Oh yeah, we've been.
You might well move in. Yeah.
We've been covering stuff all over. I've run into a lot of young brothers and sisters. A lot of them are starting businesses, and they really are taking hold of Black Wall Street.
I hope. Don't get fooled by this affair. Tomorrow they won't know shit. I'm telling you, man.
Well, in fact, I told DeMario and I, we were at dinner, and that was last night, and I said, DeMario, I really believe that this can become an annual 4-day event. I said, but, I said, like I did a panel called Reimagining Wall Street. I said, I appreciate being asked to do it. I said, but there should be actual business workshops on how to build the business, how to market, do financing. I go to a lot of business conferences, but this could really become an annual 4-day deal that is a grassroots business conference, teaching our folk how to build and sustain businesses.
They started off well. Then Black Egos got in the middle of it, and I just quit. I saw it. No. I mean, I didn't knock it or anything. I just got away from it.
Gotta keep ego out of it.
Yeah, but man, I love my community. Don't get me wrong.
I got you. I know how you feel.
But I just don't know what can.
Oh, I get black folks who come on my YouTube channel, dogging me, talking to me, you not down for black people. And in fact, I had some cats yesterday yelling and screaming, you a disciple of the white man. And I laugh, and I just tell them, you young and dumb, just move the hell on.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to sit here and worry about these fools, because I know the folk who I've talked to, who've impacted, who we've helped. And so it's going to always be a new fool.
Yeah. I just kind of shared, when I became ill, I just kind of stayed away from everybody, because I don't want to argue anymore.
Right.
Man, you don't know, I spent 20 years arguing with these Negroes. Oh, yes, you would know.
I do know. I do know.
I was trying to hide it from the white boy, but it's too late.
He black.
Oh, really? Man, you could pass.
Lord, dog.
But I don't know. I don't want to leave a negative. If you ask me, am I proud of the facility? Oh, absolutely. Because I pretty much single-handedly did this.
Mm-hmm.
Tell you how cold-blooded my people are. I hid the funding of it for 8 months until I got it all locked down.
Really?
Yeah. They want to make this a gym. I got a gym across the street. Got a gym over there. Every time we get open space, they want to put some goals up and shoot basketball. Man, we got about 5 gyms I know about.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you hid the money?
I hid the money. They didn't know what was coming up over there. Me and Senator Horner. When they found out about it, it was half-ass built. Yeah. We hired our own architects, the whole bit. But they were, oh man, tell them what this would have been if I turned them loose for a community meeting.
Mm-hmm. So you kept it quiet, kept it to yourself?
Silent. Nobody knew. They kept seeing stuff going on, so I wonder what that's going to be. I said, man, I don't know. Man, you guys know these brothers, these are co-brothers. And we had a couple of brothers, and I ain't going to call their names because we might be on TV, but they cut my throat every chance they got. Every chance they got. You know? So I wasn't about to let them have an edge on me.
But then all of a sudden it get built, and you sat back and said, see, I told y'all I was going to do this.
How'd you know?
I could tell.
Yeah.
I picked it up in your spirit.
Well, now, see, I can call their name, Jack Henderson and what is the other boy's name? Oh, I forget his name. I'll think of it. Yeah, it was 2 of them that fought me down the line, man, lied on me. Man, we had a chance. And on my mama's grave, we had a chance to get $30 million.
Really?
To develop this whole area. The 2 black city councilmen killed it.
Are you serious?
My mama's in her grave, and I hope she come up and die again. The 2 black, not the white ones. White ones for it.
Wow.
Cold town, man. Jack Henderson and what's the other boy's name? I guess ring with him, I forget his name. And then he just got beat by that girl, the city president now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Yeah.
Well, see, I know she's something because she keeps her gun on her hip.
Oh, does she have a gun?
Oh, she stood up in here. Vanessa had a gun. She said, no. She said, I don't go nowhere without my gun.
Well, she's special.
She a bad sister.
Yeah. And the boy we beat is one of the guys who's always after my ass.
Mm.
But it's a cold town, man. Cold town. And it has so much it could be proud of. But our leadership, including me, we're so thin, indifferent.
Mm-hmm.
I can include me in that because I'm tired now.
No, but no.
Yeah.
No, listen to me real clear. But you did your job. When I'm on the board of National Association of Black Journalists, we went after CNN. There had no black top executives. Mm-hmm. So I called Bernard Shaw, longtime anchor at CNN. And this is what he told me. He said, Roland, every generation has had to do their part. It's now your time.
Mm-hmm.
So you ran the race.
Mm-hmm.
You passed the baton.
Yep. And
You ain't supposed to run the race forever.
Thank you for saying that. Because even my kids ask me, Daddy, why don't you go do this? You got a name. I ain't got no name. You know, I did what I was supposed to do. And now I'm through. You do something.
Right.
You know. That's my kids I'm talking to.
Right.
They want to demand to me before they demand themselves. Yeah.
No, my parents are 74. They did their job.
That's right. That's right. So I'm not as bitter as I appear to be, but I'm also not very comfortable. You know,
because you know what it could have been.
Oh God, man!
And that's what's
yeah.
I know how that feels. I ran the Chicago Defender, and I knew the vision I had, and I was adding podcasts and magazines, and we were going to do events. And they came to me and they were like, "What's?" And here you had this historic black newspaper. And I was, and I'm talking about. I mean, I had the vision, and I said, "Man, look, these are all black millionaires." I said, "Look, if y'all would just get out my way and let me do what I've been trained to do, this is going to be one of the biggest black-owned media companies in the country."
I told them.
They sat there and said, "We just want to be a small community newspaper." I said, "I gotta go."
Yeah.
I left.
I sold that newspaper and the Black Dispatch when I was a kid, I guess 18. No, younger than that. Younger than that. I don't know how old I was. Shit.
I've been gone 14 years, and it still hits me what could have been.
You know what I'm
if
talking
they
about.
had gotten, I'm telling you. Look, I've done a lot of other things. I got my own company now, but I'm sitting there like, if y'all would just gotten the hell out of the way and just let a young brother do what he was destined to do, what it could be for our people.
They were jealous of you. They were jealous of you. You had the vision and the energy. And I'm telling you, I know it because I feel that's the way they treated me. You know, you had the vision and the energy to do it.
Right.
You were creative.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
What are you? Last question for you. What would you just visually? What would you like or hope for this place to look like in 20 years?
I'm going to say this, and I don't mean to be negative, but I just have to be. I don't see, including my kids, I don't see any creative energy coming up that are willing to invest. It takes a lot of time and energy.
That's right.
A lot of time.
Right.
And I don't see as long as my son is driving his Mercedes, he could give a shit less. You know what I mean? And the other one got him one of those big ass trucks so he can give it down. My daughter, it probably cares the most, and she got the least.
She's a teacher. She's a teacher.
How'd you know?
She told me. I interviewed her.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Rest of them, they don't care. She really does care. And she stays on my ass to keep me caring. But,
well, I've talked to a lot of cats. I've talked to a lot of them, and it's some young folks. They got the vision, and they got the heart.
Oh, I hope you're right.
I think what has to happen is you're 80, I'm 52. Some of these cats are 20s and 30s. And so we got to be able to have these intergenerational conversations, sharing knowledge, sharing expertise to be able to help them.
I think you're right. I don't know if I have the energy anymore, though.
No, but you ain't. What you did, that's what I'm saying. See, you're 80, I'm 52. It's a 28-year gap. And so the reality is my job is to operate as an elder to the person who's 25. That's a 25-year gap. So the responsibility is, it's like, hey, you enjoy your life, go have fun. It's like, Don, we got it.
Boy, you got a vision. Boy, I wish I had more Negroes like you.
Well, the reason I launched this digital company because we're streaming this all over the world right now, is to be able to reach somebody who's watching. And they listen to you, they're listening to me, and we're teaching every single day. We're broadcasting every day to create a bunch more meetings, a bunch more use.
Or you sell advertising on it?
Yeah, we do that as well.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the fan base also gives to help us. They gave last year $672,000 for us to keep broadcasting.
Oh, good. You have arrived. Yeah. You have arrived, my man.
Well, we would like to give $1 million, but look, we're gonna take every single dollar. But the point is to use it and to teach and to give information. 'Cause information is power, and then we do that. Look, it's not on. All I can do is give it. They got to be able to take it, but you got to have somebody who gives it for you to take.
Boy, you understand it. You sure do understand it. You do, man. Man, you give me hope.
It's a lot more. It's a lot more me out here. Trust
man,
me.
I haven't met him, but I'm locked up in this country town here, and he said, "Ain't that country?" I can't say it now.
Well, we gonna stay on this wall. We gonna keep hitting them. I asked your daughter, I said, is he coming? He coming tomorrow? She said, no, he's not coming. And she said, well, he might come talk to you. And then when she told me, she says, they called me this morning and said, he coming just to talk to you.
Oh, you talking about kicking me in my ass? I didn't want him to come to talk to you. I got a raw, my back still hurts. She been kicking me in my ass so hard.
But I'm glad you did.
I am too. You know, I watch you all the time, and had it not been you, I wouldn't have come. I know it, because I didn't feel like it. I didn't.
Well, I appreciate that you did.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you signed the book.
Yep.
I'm definitely gonna read it.
And let me touch my man's hand. Yeah. All right.
He lives here. He's a videographer here in Tulsa. We hired him.
Have we met before? What do you do?
He's a video guy.
Oh, okay.
And he's on my team from DC.
Oh yeah, the big shots there.
He's on my team from DC.
Okay, hey Team DC. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna ease him out of here, good friend. Let you go do what you gotta do.
Everybody who's watching, the book is called Pillage of Hope: A Family History from the Trail of Tears, Slavery, Segregation, the 1921 Race Massacre and Beyond. Memoir by Don Ross. Don, brother, I appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
I appreciate it. Y'all can take him away.
Yeah.
Your chariot awaits.
Well, I was wondering who's gonna be long-winded, you or him. He 80, but he still
go. Dragging here, kicking and screaming.
He told me. He said his back still hurting because y'all dragged him here. I appreciate it. You be well. I told him. I told him I want to talk to him.
Yeah, you did the right thing.
I appreciate it.
He talked to the right one. He doing
I can wear them out.
No, you can't wear me out. I was one on your case. You doing this to me.
You got to take credit.
That's what you would do.
I appreciate it, my brother.
We appreciate you.
You be well.
All right.
You take care.
Yep.
Yo.
I want something to eat, but I don't know what.
Well, got it. Folks, y'all can go and get it. Bookstores, Amazon.com. Former state legislator Don Ross. Oh, my God. That was one of the more interesting and insightful conversations I have had. That's probably, out of all the interviews that we've done since I've been here, that probably has been one of the best conversations that we've had here. We've had back to our Roland unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the Black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in Black-owned businesses, the Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
controversy here. We told you yesterday that Stacey Abrams and John Legend, the event featuring them on Monday has been canceled. On Monday, they planned a nationally televised event that would feature Stacey Abrams and other speakers, and there would be entertainment from John Legend. Well, that event was canceled. The city of Tulsa, they released a number of statements where they were critical of the lawyers for the Tulsa survivors, saying that they made unreasonable demands at the last hour, demanding a $50 million fund be set up. They said that is simply not true. Earlier today, when we covered this morning's march from Carver Middle School all the way down to the Greenwood Cultural Center, I talked with attorney Demario Simmons, who talked about what the city has been saying, blaming them for the event. He says it's not us, but they still haven't done right by the black folks here in Tulsa. Here's that conversation.
Hey, what's up? Attorney Demario Solomon Simmons, Justice for Greenwood Foundation. We're out here honoring our ancestors, our 3 living survivors, the descendants, and the people here in Tulsa who've been oppressed for 100 years. Here in Greenwood, the most prosperous black community ever was destroyed. 40 blocks decimated, hundreds of people killed, tens of millions of dollars of destruction. And in 100 years, not one penny has been paid. Not one person has been arrested. The city would not even admit their guilt. But today, it comes due. That is what we're here for. Justice for Greenwood Foundation. Support us at justiceforgreenwood.org. Thank you, Roland. We love you. Thank you for being out here supporting us, bro.
Tell us about, so the city released this statement about John Legend, Stacey Abrams, and then they claimed that y'all had an agreement on what?
Yeah, well, first of all, we've been trying to meet with the city and the commission for months, and they would not meet with us. And then at the 11th hour, they said they wanted to sit down, and we said, fine. And we gave them a list of 7 requests to make sure that the $30 million that they raised, that some of that went to these 3 living survivors in our community. And they didn't want to do that. We had no agreement. We also asked to have some.
So again, they claim there was no agreement.
Absolutely no agreement. And they continue their level of deception and deceit that has been part and parcel with the city and the commission from its inception.
And so for the people who don't understand, you have these sort of these parallel events. What y'all are doing, then what the city commission is doing, and y'all have made it clear that this is about the community.
That's right. We're all about the community, Roland. It's all about the 3 living survivors. It's all about the people that suffered the harm. It's all about reparations and justice. Where for the city and the commission, it was about making money. That's their own words, cultural tourism. And they were not about trying to do reparative justice. They were not trying to put the people first. That's why they wouldn't even give them 1 penny of the $30 million. They were not going to give that to the community.
And so, what's next? I mean, what do you want folks who are watching to understand what they should be doing, what they should be saying?
Absolutely. They should be saying justice for Greenwood. They should be going to our website, justiceforgreenwood.org, signing up to support our survivors, donating to our cause, because we're trying to seek financial compensation, accountability, and making sure the stories of these descendants are known. We have descendants throughout the world. We call it the Greenwood diaspora.
But what people don't realize is that 10,000 people became refugees, and they were spread out across the country.
Absolutely, 10,000 people. At any time, Roland, there may be 15,000 to 20,000 people in Greenwood. Greenwood was the city for all the black towns around Oklahoma. Greenwood was the crown jewel, and these people lost everything and were dispersed to Kansas City, Dallas, Oklahoma City, New York, Baltimore, California, everywhere. And we're trying to capture those stories and get resources to those people.
All right, then. Give us the website.
www.justiceforgreenwood.org. That's justiceforgreenwood.org. Roland, we always appreciate you. Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told our way, and we cannot be silent. Support Roland Martin. Get down with the Bring the Funk fan club. I am a proud member.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Let's go to my panel here. I want to start with you, Brittany, on the point you just heard there. So here we are, and the city is trying to save face. They're now trying to blame them when Demario actually released a letter that showed that they requested $1 million going to each one of the survivors, and then they also requested a fund. But at no point did they say, you have to do this or we will not have the survivors show up. And so the city is trying to blame Justice for Greenwood for their big event being canceled on Monday. They really wanted this nationally televised event, but the people here say, show us the money. But so you still have the game still being played here in Tulsa.
Wow. I mean, everything is just really coming full circle. And it just goes to show you, Roland, that literally nothing has changed, right? It's the changing same. It's unfortunate and it's embarrassing that they don't actually care, even 100 years later, about the survivors, right? And to care about the survivors is, again, it's not just about, oh, we recognize and we're sorry. It's about putting money in their hands. It's about so much more than that. So, I mean, I wish I could say I'm surprised, Roland, but I'm not.
The thing here, Mustafa, again, you've had these competing events. The City Commission, Tulsa 2021.org. They've been having events for several weeks. I mean, they were trying to have this huge event take place on Monday. President Joe Biden coming in Tuesday, then on Wednesday unveiling the Greenwood Rising Memorial. But even that, they're labeling that museum Greenwood Rising. But who's rising?
Well, you know, we still got these folks, and we got them right there in Tulsa who continue to want to pimp people's pain. I'll say it again, pimping people's pain and making money, as was said before, off of the trauma. If you really want to help someone to be able to move forward, to heal, then you make sure you do the right things. You make sure that the resources go to the community. You make sure that decision-making is happening in collaboration with the community. And you make sure that you also call out the injustices that you were a part of. They've made huge amounts of money from 1921 on out of this community. So it's time for them to make the change. And if not, people should call it out. People should be making phone calls and sending emails and letting them know, all the folks across the country, what your expectations are of how you are going to better support this community and how you're going to make them whole.
Michael.
Brother, you know, they should call that exhibit Getting Over on Greenwood. That's what they should call it, because that's exactly what they're doing. Personally, I don't think, see, for my understanding, the Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commemoration is controlled by white people and Republicans. That's my understanding of this, okay? I don't think they wanted the survivors there in the first place. Because if you have the survivors there, then the survivors are going to talk, okay? And it's really going to expose what's taking place. So then you have a contrast, okay? When
No, Michael. They want them there because they want the picture. They want the visual.
Yeah, they want the photo op. They want the photo op, like Trump wanted photo ops with black people, right? But yeah, they want the photo op, right? So when Mother Fletcher testified in front of Congress, the House Judiciary Subcommittee, she talked about how $30 million has been raised, right, for this whole commemoration, and none of it is going to the survivors. So they still don't want to address the issue, still don't want to deal with any type of reparations. But it's not, I want to make this very clear, it's not just reparations to the 3 survivors, it's not just reparations to their descendants, it's to the entire Greenwood community. Because we rebuilt Greenwood after the race massacre, but the expressways, the U.S. interstate highways come through and destroy it again in the 1970s. That's federal dollars that destroyed it the second time, okay? So it's not just, you can't just get off paying reparations to 3 African Americans who are 100 years old, 106, and 107. It has to be to the entire Greenwood community. That's where the reparations have to go as well.
Folks, back to our Roland unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, the black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
One of the things that's also evil is racism. White folks in America love talking about the military and how we love our military, but the reality is African Americans have always had to deal with two things: loving America on one hand and dealing with racism on the other. During World War I and World War II, they had what was called the Double V campaign: victory at home and victory abroad. And what they were fighting for ending fascism and ending racism. Well, guess what? This might be 2021, but black soldiers are still dealing with racism in America's military. The Associated Press put together a significant investigative report specifically dealing with this issue. And joining us right now is Kat Stafford. She is the National Investigative Race Writer for the Associated Press. And Richard Brookshire, co-founder and executive director of the Black Veterans Project. Glad to have both of you here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Kat Stafford, talk with us about this project. How did it start? How long did it take to put it together? And what really jumped out at you when y'all were able to finish doing your reporting and put this all together and publish it?
Yes, well, first of all, Roland, thank you so much for having me on to talk about a really important topic that, frankly, I think we don't talk about enough in America, which is, of course, as you just stated, racism in the military. And this project was actually an offshoot of the January 6th Capitol insurrection. And, you know, after what occurred, it started to come out that there were veterans that were involved with this insurrection, right? And so, like many media outlets, we started to kind of grapple with how much does extremism impact the military? But an important point that I want to make is you cannot talk about extremism in the military without talking about racism in the military, because the two are interlinked. And so what we found was that despite repeated pledges over the decades, really, this has been a long issue. This is nothing new. But despite these repeated pledges, the military has yet to really deal with racism in the military in a substantial way. We had really heartbreaking interviews with current enlistees, all the way up to officer ranks, right, as well as veterans, who kind of detailed how this is a generational issue. And some of our main findings were that the military's judicial system does not have an explicit category for hate crimes, which makes it difficult for them, right, to really figure out how big of an issue is prejudice in the military. We also found that the Defense Department does not have a real way to track how many troops have been ousted for having extremist views. So these are really concerning things that we have seen a lot of organizations really pleading with the Department of Defense to address. Now, we did get a response from the Department of Defense, and they said this is something that they are working on. They pointed to several measures, such as increasing implicit bias training. But again, you know, from the folks that we talked to who are on the ground, they said this isn't just the issue of us feeling uncomfortable. You know, we had service members who were telling us just horrific stories of being called racial slurs, being passed over for promotions. And the key thing here is, yes, racism exists in all of America. So of course it may exist in the military, but when you're talking about folks who are in life or death situations, there's an added layer of danger that comes with this, right? And so people are really pushing and hoping that with now Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin coming in, that he will really impart some systemic change. But again, this is change that needs to take place across the board on every single base.
Richard, I love when white folks think somebody black gets in a position that racism just all of a sudden goes away. We have our first black Pentagon secretary, retired four-star General Lloyd Austin. Of course, we've had other black generals as well. And the point that we keep making is just because one black person gets a high position doesn't mean that racism all of a sudden has evaporated. The military, and in this investigation, they talked about people who are on present-day duty of what they're dealing with, the kind of racism in all branches of the U.S. military.
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for having me. We started our project about 3 years ago because we saw that there was a lack of real digital conversation about how racism pervades the military, but also how it's tied to the present day manifestations of disparities that we see around veterans. And one thing I like to say when it comes to Secretary Austin, though I believe his appointment is important, we've had a black commander in chief, right? And so these things remain pervasive.
Questions from my panelists. I want to start with you, Mustafa. Your question for Richard and Kat.
So what type of additional training do you think that those who are in leadership need to be able to make real change happen? And the other part of that is what type of accountability needs to be tied to that training, so once someone is trained, then they're held accountable if they don't live up to that?
I'll jump in there. The military has the policies in place. They've had the policies in place for quite some time. They don't want to carry out those policies because of what the implications might be. Because racism exists not only from the bottom in the enlisted corps, but all the way up to the top brass of the military. And so when you start to have a conversation about race and their focus on extremism, I believe is a misnomer, right? Extremism, how do you even qualify that? Somebody has to become a neo-Nazi and go commit a hate crime. We know that, you know, the creation of hostile work environments, the kind of passive things that were being spoken about, and overt things that were being spoken about earlier are quite rampant, and they have generational effects, especially when you become a veteran, when you talk about the military justice system. The same kind of racial disparities that we see in our civilian courts replicate themselves, except they have even more, in some respects, economic implications. And so the military actually has to have the courage to abide by its own policies and procedures and root out racists, right? And so when you think about the witch hunt that was Don't Ask, Don't Tell, and how effectively careers were ended under that policy, certainly, applying these policies around racism could be executed. But the implications are there are going to be so many people on so many different levels who frankly are going to be at risk of being kicked out, right? And so there's also this conversation about the infiltration of white nationalists in the military. Also a misnomer. They've always been there. The military has been white man's land, right? This kind of institution that was beyond reproach, right? Self-governing in many ways. And one of the things that we at the Black Veterans Project are really looking at are what are the real systemic shifts that need to happen, apart from just the policies of the DOD, who are really a self-governing apparatus. We're looking at the fact that no civil rights protections exist at the federal level that apply to the military. The military is its own self-governing apparatus. So what we're trying to think through, and we're working hand in hand with some congressional leaders on, is something called the Military Civil Rights Act. And how that holds the military accountable is that it would have to abide by the same civilian protocols under equal opportunity and the same enforcement measures, right? So in this article in AP, it talked about 750 complaints of racial discrimination in the year 2020 alone. We have 1.5 million service members. Those numbers don't add up, right? Because they know that there's fears of retribution. There are wide-reaching implications if you do make complaints. And even one of the things that we were able to do last year, we were really pushing for the release of racial bias survey data that the DOD collects every 2 years. And our advocacy, along with the report by Reuters, were able to force the DOD's hand to release just one single year of that data. And it was damning, right? It said 1 in 4 service members had witnessed white nationalism in the military. 1 in 4, also a misnomer. 350,000 military personnel had witnessed in that year alone, white nationalism being espoused. And so when you have DOD leadership saying that extremism isn't pervasive, it's a misnomer. And I like to make that very, very clear.
Hey, Roland, if I could just jump in.
Teresa,
really
yeah, Kat, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick point. You know, during the course of several interviews that we did, we had veterans and others who said, and experts as well, who made this point that, you know, you could have all of the policies in the world put in place, right? We are seeing movement. You know, earlier this year, they passed the new National Defense Authorization Act with some sweeping changes, right? That would add, for instance, an inspector general who would be tasked with focusing on diversity and inclusion efforts, as well as weeding out extremism. extremism. But again, if you don't have the right people in place on the ground on these bases where a lot of these issues are happening, what real impact will it have? And that is something that we are still seeing service members ask. You know, they're saying it's great, it's encouraging to see now Secretary Austin at the helm of the Department of Defense. But again, you know, it's a lot of separation from the top and what's happening on the ground. And I do want to make one note that while Black folks are, you know, represented well in the rank and file in terms of who you're seeing serve in the military, as you start to rise up those ranks, looking at officers, looking at generals, it is overwhelmingly white. And that is also part of the issue.
I'll jump in there one more time. So
Teresa,
one of our main research projects in the next year or two is to look at how military recruitment works writ large. Our new director of policy and research, while at Columbia, did a study of just the city of San Diego, looking at recruitment centers, and did some geospatial mapping, and was able to prove that there were recruitment centers strictly for enlisted in these kind of more impoverished Black neighborhoods, and the officer recruitment centers were in affluent white neighborhoods. So this is a system that the military deliberately has put in place.
Teresa, your question.
Yes. Well, one, thank you both. I think that is a full wealth of knowledge. I have a few family members who are currently in the military and those who have enlisted. So one of my questions is, if we are looking at the recruitment process a little bit more intensively, because as you know, some of these recruitment officers are showing up at, you know, colleges and practically high schools at this point. Some of the measures I think that you're putting out, is that also going to help in that sort of dialogue with, you know, some of the civil rights pieces?
Yeah, I mean, so a recent report that took about 3 years to actually come together was looking at the nominations processes for the more elite military schools like West Point, like the Naval Academy. And what they saw was something that we all know to be true. There was a dearth, right? And so when you look at military top brass, many of them have come through these schools. And so making sure that African-American communities are abreast of the opportunities, know about the different ways they can potentially, you know, get into the officer corps. You have an overrepresentation of Black folk who have bachelor's degrees, which is the minimum bar to become an officer, that sign up as enlisted because they have bad recruiters, frankly, and they don't know the information. And so there needs to be efforts, and part of our project's work will be in combination with other organizations to do a public education drive, essentially, so that younger people who want to join the military are equipped with the knowledge that they need, so that this disparity, this really stark disparity, around 8% of the officer corps is made up of Black folk, when there's 16% or around 16% of the U.S. population, that needs to be addressed. And it's not that it can't be addressed, there's an unwillingness to address it.
And if I could jump in and make another point, you know, one of the lead folks that we interviewed in this story, this was a woman who literally rose through the ranks of the Air Force, reaching the height of becoming a lieutenant colonel, right? This is a woman who has multiple medical degrees. She's a doctor. And even though she reached this height, she still faced so much racism. She told me stories about how she had white subordinates who refused to salute her, which is something that is a major issue in the military. She talked about how she was called racial slurs while she was trying to help patients in the Air Force. So again, you know, it's one thing to recruit these folks to help make sure that they are rising through the ranks. But again, even though they are reaching the highest of heights within the military, they are still faced with racism.
Ben, your question.
Yeah, I wonder to what extent either one of you could speak to the reality that much like America is built off of, it's a racist, white supremacist system, therefore its military is going to be the same. Dr. King saying that he feared that he assimilated us into a burning house. Is representation in the military in these ranks going to actually be achievable when we're literally fighting against the white supremacist core and the tools of white supremacy, the weapon of imperialism that's built on these ideas and these ideologies, literally built on the blood of Black people and Native people? But can we actually get that change from within? If you could just speak to that.
Yeah, I think you have to work from outside and within. I mean, I'm a vet. I served for 7 years, deployed to Afghanistan, and I'm very much on the outside now, wanting to hold the military accountable. And I agree with all the points that you made. And I think it's something that double consciousness that Du Bois speaks of. Sometimes there's a triple consciousness when you actually have to serve the country. And you have to understand that most of the motivating factors that Black people even have to join are education, healthcare, housing, these things that all Americans are fighting for. And so when you think about even wanting to curb the kind of participation in this apparatus, we have to address that as a country. So the motivations are different for those who want to serve. I also think it's very important that Black folk are represented in this institution, because by default, if we're not, we're going to allow this critical American institution that will not be going anywhere to be ravaged by white supremacists. And I don't want to see the world in that way. But when I talk about even the Military Civil Rights Act, one of the big things that we have to really think about is the ways in which the coffers of the military are protected, right? And so when you go through equal opportunity mechanisms, say if you are aggrieved around racial lines, you don't really have redress. Someone might get demoted, perhaps, get kicked out of the military, but there's no financial recompense. And so there's something called Faris Doctrine that's been in place right after Eisenhower said that we were on the cusp of a military-industrial complex, because we very much have a war economy in this country that we've not wanted to confront. And so Faris bars people who serve in the military from being able to levy suit against the military. That's a baseline worker protection. And so for us at the Black Veterans Project, in combination with a lot of other organizations as well, we're thinking about how can we systematically shift this military that is shifting, like technology is shifting what the military looks like. You have less than 1% of the American population that's serving, but it's taking 50% of all discretionary money that we have at our disposal. And so what are the implications there? And so I think that Americans have to start to pay attention to the ways in which the military is raping the American public so that they don't have education, housing, healthcare. So I fully agree with you, and it has to be a multifaceted approach.
All right, then, folks. I appreciate it, Kat. For folks who haven't seen it, where can they go to read this investigative report?
You can go to apnews.com to see our latest report. You could just Google racism in the military. The great thing about the AP is our stories go everywhere.
All right, then. Richard, Kat, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Thank you.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Now is actor Harper. He was the host of the Economic Empowerment Day taking place at the Convention Center as part of the Tulsa Centennial Massacre Commission. And Hill, one of the things that I was saying was that I listed all the sponsors. And the first thing I said when I went over there was, how do they stack up on their black spend? Which is what we have to be saying.
We have to be
sponsoring a conference is one thing, but are you spending with black-owned companies?
Absolutely.
In your daily business? Because probably what they gave for the sport of conference pales in comparison to what they actually are spending every day in their companies.
Without question. And where we're talking about Tier 1 capital, we're talking about access capital, we're talking about supplier diversity, any of that spend is part of recirculating dollars. We have to bring dollars back into our community and then recirculate them. And it's not, and you're right, if it's not happening, particularly on the issue that I heard you talk about when Reverend Jackson was here about reparations for survivors, H.R. 40, these types of things. Yeah, that's going to pale in comparison to what companies are spending the billions and billions and billions on actual incoming supplier diversity initiatives. And all these companies, yes.
And in fact, John Rogers has been saying, John Rogers said, don't even use supplier diversity. He said, don't even use that phrase at all. He
because
said,
you think it's a diversion.
Absolutely. John, I interviewed him earlier. In fact, I'm going to be talking with him. We're going to show the interview a little bit later. He said, no, we must use what is your black-owned spend. He said we cannot allow them to finagle their way out of that because, to Teresa's point, when they bring in LGBTQ women, white women, bring in everybody, then all of a sudden you see this large number, but then you go, no, I need the number broken down.
Right.
And so, same thing. So now, like the hot craze today is DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. Because see, all these DEI jobs, they have no P&L responsibility.
Yeah.
They have no staff. They got no budgets.
Yes. But ultimately, Roland, for me, and I'll be honest, because people ask me about whether it's politics or whether it's spin, I think we have to just look in the mirror ourselves. We already have $1.2 trillion of buying power in our community.
Right.
And we'd be the 15th largest GDP in the world if we were a country, yet we don't spend that intentionally. A dollar leaves the black community within 6 to 7 hours. And if that's the case, we cannot build wealth unless we're recirculating the dollar. That, to me, is even more important than asking PepsiCo who their supplier is. That's for real.
No.
We got to fix our own house.
No. But here's the deal, though. They can happen simultaneously. Here's what I mean that.
Right.
So when Byron Allen filed his $10 billion lawsuit against McDonald's, McDonald's is spending 2% of their media money with black-owned media. Yet 40% of their revenue is coming from black customers.
Absolutely.
So we're actually spending our money. What I'm arguing, that's a return on investment.
Exactly.
That is, without us, y'all in trouble. General Motors, 11.4% of all GM cars bought by black people. They were spending 1% of their money with black media.
Yes.
Now we got to start asking the brother who was a general counsel. He since left at Coca-Cola. He challenged all the law firms saying, I'm going to start taking business away from you because y'all ain't serious about diversity. What I'm saying is this is where we say, no, there's about to be a return on investment. No, brother, we lied, brother. There's got to be a return on investment when we are making these demands because the companies are profiting from our spend.
Without question. Roland, let's think about tech. We make these tech platforms,
right.
billion-dollar companies. We just made Clubhouse a $4 billion market cap in beta because black folks got on that app. We made Twitter. You're right. Our culture has been monetized. We monetize companies with our dollars. The question is, how do we keep the money in our community?
How do we get to monetize blackness?
We have to create our own companies, our own tech, and support, just like what you've done with this platform. This is why folks have to understand how powerful what you're doing with this platform. This is called self-sovereignty. This is called using technology, state-of-the-art technology, to own your platform. And if we focus on that, using decentralized technology, using the state-of-the-art stuff, doing this. To me, you are the light of what we need to do. You're doing it in media. We need to do the same thing on tech platforms. We need to do the same thing in fintech. We need to do the same thing in all of these areas.
Well, I'll give a perfect example. You talked about Clubhouse. So Isaac Hayes III has created his app fan base.
Yes.
Which allows for you to actually get paid for your content.
Yes.
So we need this crowd fund. I invested $50,000 in this crowd fund. And when I was saying to people, to your point, we made Clubhouse hot. We can just as easy make fan base hot.
Yes.
We can $4 billion valuation. This black-owned app could be a $4 billion valuation. He has chat rooms like Clubhouse. He has photos like Instagram. I can do videos like Instagram.
And I think you can do private stuff
but
like
to your point,
OnlyFans.
It has to be intentional.
It does, and that's why I launched the blackwallstreet.com in the app, and we launched it last night on another platform that brothers run called Earn Your Leisure, the #1 fintech podcast out there right now, brothers doing it, and they're doing it very well. Wall Street Trapper was there, another brother who's talking about finance. TheBlackWallStreet.com is a digital app that we're launching to let people invest in Bitcoin and not have to go through the Coinbases, the Cash Apps, the Venmos.
Okay,
the
so explain that. Okay, so I've had some people. We were discussing this at dinner last night. I've had some people say, Roland, you need to start accepting cryptocurrency to join your fan club.
Yes,
okay,
you should.
So, all right. So for people who have no idea what the hell that is, they hear it and they're like, I don't know what this all is. Explain what your app does to help with that. So let's say if I wanted to say we're going to start accepting crypto, if you want to join our Bring the Funk fan club,
yes.
How does your app help facilitate that?
Okay, well, first of all, we have to. Crypto's a big world and a big universe.
Got it.
There's 9,200 different cryptos out there. 99% of them are trash. Let's be clear. They're designed to try to separate you from your money. Okay, so that's why it has to start with education first.
Right.
Okay, and so on our platform we have financial literacy, financial education about crypto, etc. But beyond that, what digital wallets simply do, we're moving into an age of digital currency and cryptocurrency, where just like the watch on people's hands are accessories for the most part because they do exactly what you're doing. You look at your phone for your time, right? The same thing's going to happen with your wallet or your purse. You're not going to use what's inside of it, credit cards or cash, to transact. You're going to use a digital wallet in your phone. You're already doing it. Apple Wallet, PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, etc. Here's the problem. We don't own any of those.
Right.
And I just said, right on this street 100 years ago, a dollar circulated 60 to 100 times, which was a year, 2 years or more within the ecosystem. Right now in America, a dollar leaves the black community within 6 to 7 hours. If we don't start owning our own digital wallets, it'll be leaving within 6 to 7 seconds. That's why I created a digital wallet, an app. Now, why are you able to buy only Bitcoin on that app? You can only buy Bitcoin on others like
because it said all the rest of them are trash. You already said.
Yeah, exactly. You catch on quick, right?
I pay attention.
So here's the deal. Every Bitcoin has 100 million Satoshis in it. I have a saying, and other people say Satoshi is black. What do I mean by that? We finally have a fair, decentralized type of currency that if we index in early right now, the entire world will have to come through us for access to that asset. 95% of black Americans keep their portfolio in cash. They keep it in cash. Why is that a problem, Roland? It keeps us poor. Why? Because cash is a descending value asset. They printed 22% of the circulating supply of money last year. If we're in cash, every time your head hits the pillow, you wake up poor the next morning. The wealthiest 1% keep 95% of their assets in things other than cash, ascending value asset classes, real estate, fine art, blue chip stocks. I don't tell people buy Bitcoin. I say sell your money, sell your cash, get into an ascending value asset. If we could convert, my goal is to have every black American have at least 1 million Satoshis. In today's money, that'd be like $380. If we actually did that, so if you have 2 parents in the household, 3 kids, that's 5 million Satoshis in that household. If we actually did that, there's only 2% adoption in the world. The rest of the world would have to come through us for access to this asset class. We would control the asset class. We've never controlled an asset class. And therefore, the price rises, and we actually are having and holding leverage. It's about creating leverage. And that's why us adopting Bitcoin and buying it through our platform creates power and leverage.
All right. Where can people get the information?
They go to theblackwallstreet.com, put your email address, and we will send you that. Or just go to Google Play or your app store and download actually the app, The Black Wall Street. And here's the deal they got to understand. We're building this so it's unbreakable. They're not going to be able to come and tear it down like they did here, right? And therefore, folks are going to have to go through a real stringent process when they load it. They're going to KYC, which means know your customer. People are like, "Hey, I just want to come on and start just buying." No. You got to take your time, connect your bank account. It's a process, but it's a process worth doing. And I believe I'm going to make a big prediction right here, Roland. This is the first time I'm saying it, and since we're live, I want to say it. I believe that our app and our platform will create more black wealth than any single business or app in history. Black wealth, black American wealth.
All right.
That's a prediction.
That's it.
Hill Harper, surely appreciate it, bro. Thanks a lot.
Appreciate you, man. Continue doing what you're doing. You are our hero in the media space, and we have to support you and start accepting Bitcoin. 5 years from now, you come up to me, Hill, that interview, I don't know how people saw it, but at least that was the most valuable interview I ever had, because I'm sitting on a bunch of Satoshis, and they're going to be worth a lot.
All right.
All right?
Hill Harper, I appreciate it, brother.
Thank
Thanks
you, brother.
a lot.
Thank you.
Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible.
Strange, crazy story. All right. White folks being white in Mississippi. A local high school. Matter of fact, you know what? Go ahead. Y'all know what time it is.
Oh, God. No charcoal grills are allowed. I'm white. I got you, bro. Illegally selling water without a permit? On my property. Whoa! Hey! You don't live here. I'm uncomfortable.
All right, y'all. In Mississippi, a local high school faces backlash. Why? Because 2 black girls, valedictorian, salutatorian. But guess what? They then came back and said, oh, hold up. We're going to add 2 more students. Now, Ikeria Washington, Layla Temple, valedictorian, salutatorian. Then they decided to say, no, we got 2 more. So they said, then they tried to explain away the new rule. So the new rule is this here, that, there's a thing called a GPA and a QPA. Y'all, look at this here. This is Scott. What's the cuss word you be using all day?
Bullshit.
Thank you. This is that statement. The West Point Consolidated School District would like to address the concerns of the naming of the valedictorian and salutatorian for WPHS class of 2021. There are 2 methods to determine a student's class rank. The first is quality point average, or QPA. The second is grade point average, or GPA. On page 10 of the West Point High School Student Handbook, it states a student's rank in his or her graduating class will be calculated by averaging his or her semester averages. Based on the above statement in the handbook, a student's rankings should be determined by GPA. However, at Senior Awards Day on Monday, May 24, 2021, the 2 students who were recognized as valedictorian and salutatorian did not have the highest GPA. Instead, these 2 students have the highest QPA. The 2 students with the highest QPA are Ikeria Washington and Layla Temple. The 2 students with the highest GPA are Dominic Borgioli and Emma Berry. The WPCSD feels it is necessary to recognize all 4 seniors at graduation. Congratulations to the following: Dominic Borgioli and Ikeria Washington, valedictorian, Emma Berry and Layla Temple, salutatorian. We apologize for any confusion and problems this may have caused. The school district takes full responsibility for this misunderstanding. Can y'all please show Ikeria, please, and Layla? Could y'all please show the other two?
Little black girls. Go ahead on.
I think it's abundantly clear. Robert, what the hell went on here?
Oh, God.
This isn't anything new. This gives me a chance to get a grievance off my chest, too. Back in 2001, when I was in high school, my school, the majority black school, Kendrick High School in Columbus, Georgia, after a 20-year drought, won the academic decathlon tournament from Muskogee County. Because we won at Hardaway High School, they would not give us the trophy, because they could not believe that the black school had finally won. I gave an amazing speech also, but they couldn't believe that the black school actually won, so they had to go back and do a recount of all the scores and points. So 2 weeks later, they finally gave us our ceremony in the library at our school instead of on the big stage in front of everybody else. You also seen me trash talking too. Columbus High School, all them folks, I was killing them. But this has been going on for a long time now. I'm glad that we're bringing some attention to these young women so that they can have the proper shine and the proper recognition for what they've achieved.
Well, it's hard being black in America. It just is. I mean,
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that Robert was part of an academic decathlon.
He's still mad about that shit.
I am still mad. I got the picture on my laptop with my screensaver.
That's where tertiary came in, and all the other words that he has blessed us with. And I am thankful that this was your therapeutic moment where you could get that off your chest. But back to these women, young girls, who had something stolen from them. Look, I don't know, Roland. I didn't see where it was a new rule. It seemed like it was the rule, and that they screwed it up, and maybe they had been doing things this way, and they went to the senior thing without knowing who the GPA people were because the final grades weren't calculated yet. It's still their fault. It's still a mess up. And you know, they told the tale when they completely deleted their Facebook account. Like, they just couldn't handle it. Like, I couldn't take no more. But what I'm saying is, if they went by GPA before, they should go by it again. I want to know if the numbers are actually right or not. And what I also want is for the real revenge, the justice in the matter, to be that these two young black women never want for a college scholarship, never want for a job, never want for a dime. Let's fix it, y'all. Forget these people in Mississippi who tried to snatch these titles from them. I want for their lives to be a witness to what our communities do when you try to take things from our girls.
Scott,
in defense of black women and girls.
Where's Spelman College when you need them? They ought to both.
They're here. They're going wherever they want to go, Scott. But I want them to go free and banked.
Yeah. So, in any event, let me just say this.
Meaning you, Scott.
Say what? I'm not muted.
You.
No, I'm not muted. But listen.
I said meaning you. Where is your check for the girls?
I can't hear you. But anyway, the whole racial balance piece just screams at you in this case, whatever the dynamic is, it screams at you. But that's how Mississippi and those red southern poor states look at this. So we have separate but equal, and we make them equal. It just it makes it okay. It makes it palatable, if you will. And that's just, what's the word? Bullshit.
Well, that is it for us. And Monique, don't think for a second we gonna forget that tumbling ass phone of yours. Get your ass a tripod, please.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah, we get.
Hey, Roland, here's the thing.
Yeah,
How come we can't get any Roland Martin paraphernalia like shirts and jackets and hats? We're regular guests. I keep hearing we're going to get them, but we haven't gotten them. But I see you have a shirt on now. So how come I don't? We don't get paid for any of this. So how can you compensate us with value to goods or services? Just curious.
Scott,
are we still on the air?
Scott, your compensation is that I still even talk to you.
Back to that Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
Racial injustice is a scourge on this nation, and the black community has felt it for generations. We have an obligation to do something about it. Whether it's canceling student debt, increasing the minimum wage, or investing in black-owned businesses, The Black community deserves so much better. I'm Nina Turner, and I'm running for Congress to do something about it.
About 30 minutes ago, President Joe Biden finished addressing the folks here. The crowd that you see there, we're standing right in front of Vernon AME Church here on Greenwood Avenue. Right across the street is the Greenwood Cultural Center. The crowd there you see who are gathered right there. Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. came out to greet some of the folks who are out here. They came out here hoping to see President Joe Biden. He has not left after his speech. He was in the back actually speaking with a variety of civil rights leaders and others before he heads out back to Washington, D.C. And so, again, if we go back to the other shot, please. So folks have been all along this street here. They've been down here for the past 4 hours or so. You had a group of about 200 people, VIP invitation only, who were inside to attend the speech. There were those of us who were also in the press who were inside as well. And so the people came out here hoping to get a chance to see many of the dignitaries who was there. Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. attended the speech. Reverend Al Sharpton was there. Mark Morial, President and CEO of the National Urban League, also there. Members of Congress, including Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence of Michigan, Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester of Delaware. There was also Congresswoman Barbara Lee of California. You had Congressman Stephen Horsford from Nevada, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee from Texas, and Congressman Hank Johnson from Georgia. So they were all there attending the speech. As President Biden said in his speech, this was the first time a United States president came to Tulsa to commemorate this anniversary. This race massacre took place 100 years ago, sundown on May 31st, and extended through the wee hours on June 1st. And what's interesting is that for a long time, I mean decades, this city would not even acknowledge what took place. Insurance companies refused to pay the claims. Black people who had their money in banks couldn't get that money out because the bank said you have no proof you had money here because the papers were burned up when 36 blocks of black prosperity was gutted, completely destroyed by white domestic terrorists. That's what took place here in Tulsa. As I said, there were a number of people who were there. Reverend Dr. William J. Barber was inside. Also, longtime Tulsa resident Bishop Carlton Pearson. He was also inside the Greenwood Cultural Center to hear President Joe Biden speak. He joins us right now. Bishop Pearson, glad to have you back on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Just from your perspective, first of all, what did it mean to have a U.S. president come here to acknowledge that this is real? In his speech, he said this was a massacre, not a race riot.
That was the most profound words. Those were the most profound words spoken about this incident in American history, because a president said it. He didn't skirt around it. He didn't act like it didn't exist. He didn't try to soft shoe it. He said it the way it was. And that room was touched and moved. You were sitting right in there. It was very powerful for us to hear the energy shift when a president said it very apologetically and unapologetically. It was a somber move. That's Jesse coming.
It absolutely was.
Reverend Jesse Jackson.
It absolutely was a very somber moment. And again, Reverend Jackson is walking over here. And so we're going to lead him right over
and
here.
And the pastor.
Bishop Pearson has no problem sharing the microphone here.
Not at all.
And so we got Pastor Turner here. We got Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Reverend Jackson, step right on in here. I just want to get your thoughts on what President Biden had to say to the crowd here in the Greenwood District.
You opened up the wound of the cover-up. That's important. We're not going to go beyond the cover-up to the new day. We need now a commitment by the federal government, to make African American hate crime bill. It's done for Asians and it's done for Jews. Secondly, make lynching a federal crime. In that past Senate, last time Rand Paul held it up. We also need a $100+ million development bank. Not just a grant, but a bank that intends to lend to small businesses. That's a restitution. See, the John Rogers who lost their homes, and they should be restitution, not reparations. They must be paid for sickness from them.
In his speech, President Biden, he mentioned how we've changed, how we moved along, and then he mentioned seeing these multiracial commercials. And I'll be honest with you, when he stated that, the first thing that I thought about as a black-owned media company is saying, that's great that we're in the commercials, but we're not getting the advertising money. You got to deal with the money if you want to deal with America.
Well, no. I think you're saying something else. I agree, but I'm black as it all the time. It seems to me that when Diane Carroll kissed a white guy, it was national news on TV. The blacks man says humans. Now, to make us human, we sleep on mattresses, we run, we play. That's a piece of it. But your point is, at the end of the day, it's an economic factor, and we must fight these companies tooth and nail to get Carroll Williams and other black-owned agencies of record. Burrell in Chicago, Carroll Williams in California. This is the deal breaker for us, deal maker for us. Really.
Pastor Turner, I want to bring you in here. You heard, I'm bringing Bishop Carlson. You heard the president. He talked about housing. He talked about 10 to 15% for disadvantaged businesses. But again, the moment what I heard was disadvantaged businesses, that includes a whole lot of people. We also got to be black specific in the ask.
Absolutely. And I want to say it was good that he's the first president to come here in 100 years, but we and I appreciate that, but we need to make sure that we have some legislation to back up that speech. And while we appreciate the presence, we want to see some policy. And he came right close to supporting an anti-black hate bill, but I didn't hear that come out of his mouth today. I'm hoping that it does. We still have not seen policing reform, George Floyd. We still have some voter suppression laws across this country that we need to get addressed. And like the Reverend Jackson stated, lynching today in America is not a federal crime. I'm going to repeat that. Lynching today in America is not a federal crime. And we still do not have an investigation into the worst race massacre in American history, where when bombs were dropped right here on American soil, we've never had a federal investigation into that.
Perpetrators. Somebody knows whose granddaddy did the burning, the killing. The victims are perpetrators, and both must be addressed. We're leaving right now, but we're starting a Rainbow Push Coalition in the area. Reverend Turner will be the point person to convene the Rainbow in this area.
Bishop Carlton Pearson, on that point again, here, I've been hearing from lots of people. They appreciate the gesture. They appreciate the acknowledgement. But if you don't deal with the repair, if you don't create a victims compensation fund, America created a multi-billion-dollar victims compensation fund for 9/11, but Tulsa and Oklahoma, America still has not done it for the residents of Greenwood.
Well, first of all, we're not asking for special rights. We're just asking for equal rights. The equal rights that this section of Tulsa and really of the state earned. We had a city. They didn't drop bombs on black people. They dropped bombs on black progress. And that's what they fight the most. We want progress, not just process. We can talk about it. They've been talking about it for years. Words don't mean anything without action. We're expecting action. We're actually demanding action. And we want every American to vote and talk to their congressperson, male or female, Democrat or Republican. We need change. If we don't, because the whole world sees this, we're going to look like an unjust country. Is it justice or just us, as we often say? Reverend has been saying it for decades, very clearly. They know what he says is accurate. Let's do it. We're commanding, we're demanding, we're expecting it to happen. Right, Rev? Yes. It's going to happen.
Reverend Jackson, you, for a long time, you ran Operation Breadbasket that morphed into Rainbow Push. I went over to the convention center today where they had this economic empowerment day, supposedly focused on African Americans, that all of these companies listed as sponsors. And the first thing I said was, are these companies spending money on black law firms, black catering companies, black transportation companies, black engineering companies?
That's why Reverend Turner and Brother Bishop are going to form a Rainbow Push Coalition in this area. They must board directors, C-suites, supply contracts, a whole range of, you count on it, Roland, Love you, buddy.
Reverend, I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Always good to see you. Pastor Turner, I know you got, I told you about that Omega stuff. Don't start. Pastor Turner, I know you got the revival tonight. Get on with that Kappa stuff. Bishop Pearson, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Jamal, come on over here. I'll talk to a little Kappa. Let me give you the microphone here. You popped in for revival here, and Pastor Turner here, yeah, you needed backup. You needed backup. So we've been talking about folks appreciative of acknowledgement. But if you don't deal with the money, then it's just a feel-good moment.
Right. It's amazing. Dr. William Barber has carried the real torch of Dr. King, who understood the next step after civil rights was civil rights. Dr. King said in a conversation to Harry Belafonte, what's the point of a Negro sitting at a lunch counter if he don't have money for a hamburger? And so this is really about economic justice, that we're not coming to smell ashes, but really to demand reparations. And that's why people have come from all over the country.
There are a lot of people who, I love the folks who go, do for self, do for self, do for self. Now, first of all, the black church has always done for self.
Right.
I own this company that's doing for self.
That's right.
My security guy owns his company that's doing for self. But doing for self also doesn't mean that we ignore the billions being spent by the federal government, state government, county government, city government, school districts, corporate America, because white wealth in America was not built by doing for self. It was built on doing for access. Right now, Jeff Bezos, the richest man in the world, is asking for a federal bailout of his space company.
Right.
He got the money.
Right.
But he's looking to the federal government for a check for his space company.
The other side of that, Roland, is the reason why we're here is America hates when we do for self. That the African Americans...
Hold on. Yeah. See, for everybody, somebody watching right now, hold on, as my man D-Nice said, let me run that back.
Yeah. We are here because America doesn't like for us to do for ourselves. You and I crisscross around the country, especially pre-COVID. And if you go to Baltimore, you go to Little Italy, you go to New York, you can go to Chinatown. Nowhere in America can you go to Little Africa. And Tulsa was the closest thing to it of what it means for cooperative economics. It sounds good, but African Americans have a rough time doing for self if we go to Wells Fargo trying to get a small business loan. But that same bank will give us loans to get used cars. So when we do for ourselves, is a different kind of fight and a different kind of battle.
Also, I think what has to happen, and we've talked about this before, and I keep saying is there has to be a reprogramming of Black America.
Yeah.
And we have to understand how deeply embedded white supremacy was. When I'm going to play the video later, when President Biden did the tour of the Cultural Center, he asked the sister,
after they rebuilt Black Wall Street, what happened between 1925 and 1950? And he asked, well, did it get destroyed because of the freeway? And she said no. She said, and I saw her, and I saw it in her face like, damn, I got to actually say this, but I don't want to say it. She said, no, actually what did it was because with integration, black folks spent our money in white establishments because we wanted to have the freedom to spend our money in a white establishment. If you read Gerald Horne's book on Claude Barnett, it says Claude Barnett's Associated Negro Press and the Jim Crow Paradox. The Jim Crow Paradox is that every time we put a nail in Jim Crow, we actually are putting a nail in black self-sufficiency.
Wow. The forgotten page about Tulsa that is so significant is that when Marcus Garvey was running low on trying to build the ships, it was the business
Black Star
owners.
cruise ship.
That's right. It was the black business owners of Tulsa that sent money to New York to help them become afloat. So this cooperative economics is building an ecosystem. So you're built right outside of D.C. You're just coming from Houston, coming from North Carolina, now in Oklahoma.
Built by, and this I keep trying to explain to people.
Right.
Last year, our fan base gave $672,000
wow.
for this show.
Wow.
That represented 20% of the revenue we generated last year.
Right. And I think that's where we've got to start looking. There was an article yesterday that said, let's not confuse reparations with conversation. Just by us talking about it is not the paycheck. And so everybody's talking about where's our equitable piece in media and media representation. This is it. And so we got to stop talking about it and really put our money where our mouth is.
I know you got to preach. I appreciate it. We might take some of that live, you know what I mean? But when you did mention Dr. King and Reverend Barber,
yes.
That's two albums. Y'all go ahead.
No, it's all right.
It's all good.
Yeah, I'm going to give you that. I can't even fight that one.
But I already hurt his feelings early when I told him, I said, you can't even take Kappa Alpha Psi because you got to say Alpha. Y'all go ahead and go. You're going to preach.
Give a piece a chance.
God, give a piece a chance. Y'all know we always got to have a little fun with Pastor Jamal Bryan. That's my man. We always. Folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.
Peace.